You get plenty of coverage of Oklahoma State football. You think you hear all the noise coming from Gallagher-Iba Arena when you get your Cowboy basketball news. But you don't.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
And there's a couple of Jordans here to fix just that. This is the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast.
This could be a podcast. Anyone with a computer can make one.
Here are your hosts, Jordan Keene and Jordan Bishop.
That's correct. Welcome into the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast. Jordan King, Jordan Bishop with you. As usual, this is episode 17. We're moving right along. Coming up in this episode, you'll hear from Taylor Lynch. Glad to have her on the podcast finally. And she was obviously someone that we kind of targeted as someone that her and Maddie Sue and some of the seniors on this team that we wanted to have on the podcast. So glad to finally have her on, Jordan. I thought that was a pretty good interview over there at the Cowgirl locker room, or the Cowgirl clubhouse, I guess is what you'd call it.
Yeah. I realized the other day I was talking to some of the managers that I've actually covered Taylor and Maddie Sue's entire career, and I thought that was pretty cool. And Taylor had the I guess kindness to drop by and stop by for about half an hour and talk and learn some stuff about her and learn some things of why she came here in the first place, and she wanted to be a program builder and what she's liking about the growth of softball. So a lot of interesting things in that interview.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And another thing, and we'll get to this kind of closer to the interview, why she came here was kind of unique. Probably not a way that a lot of people would decide how they'd choose a college, but I think it's as good a reason as any. I mean, to choose a school. So we'll get into that about the middle of this podcast. We'll start off with some tennis, though, before we get into softball in earnest, as they get a big sweep this past weekend. We're pushing these later and later into the weeks, Jordan. We're not slipping, though. We've never missed a week. We've had 2 weeks where we've done 2, so we're well ahead of the schedule. So UCF, Oklahoma, I think we both kind of said, UCF, they're a good program, well-respected program out in Florida. I don't think that was a team that you would have been concerned about losing to unless you really just laid an egg. And then OU, I mean, there are wins, and then there are rivalry statement 7-0 sweep wins. And this is, if you're ever going to have, like, in the old format, and we asked Coach about this, and there are some drawbacks that he mentioned to playing out all the sets, because that's what they do now. They play out the entire match, play out all 7 matches. But this is probably one of the more advantageous things about playing out the matches when you want to really make a statement to your in-state rival, your Bedlam rival. You can do it in a huge way, and that's what they did with Marina's 7. She gets the clinching match. I liked how he kind of said earlier this week in some other various radio shows here on the station, all 3 seniors kind of got their moment to, Sophia clinched the match. Marina was the one that clinched the sweep. It was kind of a cool dynamic here against your Bedlam rival, and 7-0 football score.
Yeah, and Katie Stresnikova, the other senior, won a tie-break her first set, and then dominated the second set to get to win hers in straight sets. And I was there Sunday. It was a good crowd, a packed crowd, loud. The thing I like most about these senior days is that you get to hear what they talk a little bit afterward. They get these roses and get to go talk to the fans, and it's interesting to hear, especially from Sophia and Katie. Because they've been here all 4 years, and Katie was obviously, I think she was the number 6, number 5 player on that run in 16. But here, their growth and what they're talking about, hopefully going into the postseason. But it was really cool for Marina because she's a player that even Coach Young mentioned that she likes to play it out. So she usually will go to the third set, and she likes to come from behind and win, and she did, and she dominated the second set after losing the first one. Then I think she was down 4-3. And then came back to win it, I think 6-4 in the third set. So it was really cool, really loud, and it was just a fun atmosphere.
The interesting thing that Coach Young said, again, on a radio show earlier this week, that I thought was just kind of interesting was he went over to her and said, if we want to take this break between the second and third set, if you make that long enough, I'm sure Sophia's going to finish her match out. So I guess what he said, if you don't start your match, if you don't start your final set, before the clinching match is done, then you just go to a tiebreaker. like a 10-point tiebreaker. So he gave her the option. He's like, do you want to start this up a little quicker, give yourself a little less of a break, or and play a full set, or do you want to just do the 10-point tiebreaker? And to your point, she said, no, I want the short break. Let's go get this thing. I want to make sure I can beat her in a true third set.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about how the Green One Center is laid out, is that you can see all 6 courts, and so a lot of the players can see what's going on in their other matches, see what they got to do. Gives them momentum-wise. If you win one, or if they lose, somebody loses in the court next to you, puts more pressure on you, but you know what's going on. So I think that's really cool. That's set up. A lot of other places around the country, it's split in half. So having all 6 there, and that's what I was talking to Catherine Gouliher the other day for media availability, and she said that's what she likes about college tennis is, it's such an individual game, but you are there right by each other, so it's hard not to become a team player, and that's why I think it's really cool about Marina doing that, because she knew that, hey, I could wait on that, and it'd be good for the team. She still clinch it, but I still want to win ours. I want to win it 7-0 in a sweep. Yeah,
so that was a fun kind of story, kind of tells you some personality about some more of the players. Obviously, the listeners of this podcast heard from one of the other seniors, Sophia Blanco, and she kind of had the shot of the weekend, jaw-dropping kind of stuff from her, kind of stuff that you'd see on ESPN, hitting a between-the-legs shot as she was retreating after it got lobbed over her head. Just a ton of talent on this team, and I think you talked to Coach, and he's as confident as he's ever been heading towards postseason play.
Yeah, because going into this year is obviously a lot of new faces, but chemistry and the teams come together really well. Obviously, they've won 12 of the past 13, with the only loss being to Texas, who leads the conference. He compares it a lot to the 16 team. I mean, he said doubles needs to get better. I mean, obviously they won 2. I think it was Katie and maybe Marina. Yeah, Katie and Marina lost theirs and doubles, but they still need to get better. But he's confident, though, in Sophia getting a point locked pretty much. She only lost one match, and that was in UCLA, where she had to retire due to her back injury. And then Marina at number 4, because like we said, she can get in the third set, but she's usually good coming from behind. So he's confident in at least getting 2 from there. So he's feeling good about how it's all coming together. Closing out the regular season this weekend with TCU and Texas Tech. Texas Tech, they've already beat twice in non-con. And then TCU, I think, is around the middle of the pack in the Big 12, 4-3. But close those out, go to the Big 12 tournament up in Lawrence, and hopefully come away with the championship there.
Yeah, and if you start to do that, you get a little more momentum. But you talk about the importance of the doubles point. We've heard Coach talk about that all year long. But when you talk about Sophia, generally is a 100% chalk it up. In sports, you never have 100%, but she's as close as it gets, it seems like, with her matches. And then Marina, as you said, another one where you feel probably north of 85% they're going to win. So when you talk 2 points there, if you're able to get that doubles point, you're to 3 already. Yeah. And you look at the match they lost, Texas, you got 2 wins. You win the doubles point. You lost the doubles point there. If you win the doubles point, again, we're getting to 3. Then all you need is someone to steal a match. And again, I say steal a match like they're like big underdogs. They aren't big underdogs at any, on any court. Generally, they're usually right in it. So I think you bring up a good point with doubles if they can get that figured out. But again, they've been pretty solid all year long. It's just to the standards that Coach Young wants, and that's obviously high standards.
Yeah, I think that's one positive thing I was thinking about this the other day about playing out these matches that you don't usually have done in recent years. Is the fact that, yes, you're confident that you'll get doubles most of the time, especially with Sophie and Catherine getting you one of those points, and just got to find someone else to get you the other one to clinch that point. And then, obviously, Sophie and Marina almost locks. And then at the 6th spot, you've had Catherine and then Tammy Arnold, both alternating, but they've been pretty good, so confident that you're going to be up with 3 points. I think the top 3, though, playing out those matches with Lisa, Nyawe, and Katie, it's got them more, I guess, more experience, I guess, if you could say. I mean, more reps. So they won't be, I guess, wearing down later in the year because they've played out all these matches that they haven't done in recent years.
Yeah, so again, 5-2 win over UCF, 7-0 over Oklahoma. You talk about going down to Texas. I don't care which team it is down in Texas. It's a tough place to go play. No one likes to go to Waco. No one likes to go to Lubbock. And Texas Tech has a pretty quality program down there too. So what are the dangers of going down to Texas, maybe looking ahead. I mean, I don't want to necessarily say this team's going to look ahead, but is there a little bit of danger probably maybe to look ahead to the Big 12 tournament? And then what are the dangers of just going down and playing a couple tough squads down in Texas?
Dangers obviously are, especially Texas Tech, they've already played you twice, so they know what you got. I mean, it's hard to be a team 3 times in any sport in a year, so that's going to be the hard part down there in Lubbock. Especially I know a couple years ago they played outside and it was a bit windy, and that caused some problems for the Cowgirls. I think they dropped one down there. But that's a problem for me down in Lubbock. TCU is a pretty good squad. I mean, honestly, they're scrappy. They'll be probably fighting for get some movement up in the RPI and hopefully to get an NCAA tournament spot. So they'll be fighting for postseason. So go down there. You got to control that. I know their eyes are on Texas and hoping that Texas at least drops, a match or two. 2 would be great because in the Cowgirls, if they win, they'd win the conference. But you got to be confident in yourself and worry about yourself. If Texas wins it, you can take your business up here in 2 weeks and win the tournament. So. Yeah,
so that'll be interesting to see. I'm trying to pull up.
They beat Baylor last night.
Okay, I was trying to pull up the women's tennis schedule. I'm just about to get it up here. So as we scroll down to the end of the season, they beat Baylor, as you said, 7-0. Iowa State, and at West Virginia. So again, road trips. But these are 2 teams that Oklahoma State took care of pretty handily. You would probably assume Texas would do that. So, again, we'll kind of preview the Big 12 tournament coming up after this weekend, and we get a little clarity on how this season ends for the Cowgirls, the regular season, and then kind of take a look at the RPI, where they're sitting. Do we expect them to get a host a regional? I think we do right now. I think that's
number 11 right now.
Just about locked in, unless you go down and lose a couple matches this weekend. Probably locked in on a top 16 seed. Now, I guess the goal probably is to try to push for a top 8 seed, right? So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to do that here in the next couple weeks. But again, we can kind of talk about that coming up in a little bit here on the Cowgirl Coverage podcast. Looking back last week, I guess the best way to start for softball as we move on to softball. Let me pull up the RPI first of all, because
UTA's logo looked like that.
What's that?
UTA's logo.
Yeah, they're it's a fierce logo, man. It's a fierce logo. But we'll get to that logo in just a second. The best place I think to start is to pull up the RPI here for softball, because this was a bone of contention for some people in the media, for some people on the team. Coaches on the team wondering why Oklahoma State we pulled this up, and people will see they dropped down to 19. Your first reaction when you saw or heard or however it came about that they were 19 when they were 13 last week, looked pretty stable up there in the top 16, lose to UTA, sweep Kansas, and you find yourself down at 19.
Yeah. I first heard about it because I saw John put out the release on the rankings. They moved to the 14 in both polls, and I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what the RPI is. They're 19, and it didn't really make any sense. So I asked Coach the first question I asked. I should have probably asked him later, but that was the first thing I asked. Like, what do you think about the RPI? And he was pretty pissed because he said it doesn't really make any sense. That I know that they lost to UT Arlington, which was around the 90s. In the RPI, but they beat a number 6 Texas team in the series of 4. They swept Kansas. Why in the world? And he was mad. First of all, going back, they beat number 6 Texas team and didn't move up hardly at all in the RPI. Then you lose one game and you drop down 6 spots. And so I think that's what he's so mad about. But it's kind of like we figured it was going to be anyway. I mean, you still have a lot of time to prove yourself. I think Iowa State's in the 40s. For the RPI, so if you get a sweep up there, that's good for you. If you get a win against Tulsa next week, obviously Tulsa's top 25, about 26 team RPI wise. And then you have who they have, Texas Tech. They still have Texas Tech to play, right? Yeah.
Yes, the Cowgirls. Yes.
Yeah. And so Texas Tech, obviously number 16. So if you get a sweep or a series win against them, you're back in the top 16 seeds. But it is frustrating looking at that though.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here's the interesting thing too. To me, you see Texas take a little bit of a slip losing to Oklahoma State in last week's RPI, right? They take a little bit of a slip. They run rule Texas State, and then Texas Tech comes into town. Or, pardon me, they go to Lubbock, so another tough place to go play. But they go to Lubbock, and they lose one there. They moved up in the RPI. So I don't know, do midweek games mean more than conference games? I'm not really sure how to figure out this RPI. But again, as we have it up here, I'll point out everyone in gray is teams that they have played. Again, LSU, you lost to Texas, you won that series. Arizona, Ole Miss, you lost to them. Kentucky, you beat Tulsa. You lost to. You're going to hopefully get a win against them. That would be a big win for your program coming up. And then you lost to Notre Dame. And the reason I go to 31 is because Arizona State's there, and you beat them. The two teams in orange are the two that you have to play well against. Even if you don't, even if you don't beat Oklahoma, obviously having them on the schedule and playing them is going to help your RPI a little bit. And if you can keep those games close, maybe steal one, I think you're going to shoot up these RPI rankings in a hurry. And then, as you said, Texas Tech is also one that you probably feel like you got to win. So I wanted to bring that up. I guess that will just merge straight into Big 12 standings. Number 2 in both polls, Oklahoma, 6-0. I saw 16-14. Maybe that changed. I might have seen it before it changed. But 16-14, Oklahoma State 7-2 after Texas Tech knocked off Texas in one of those games. So Oklahoma State takes sole possession of second place in the Big 12. Texas, number 10 and number 11 in respective polls, and then Texas Tech. So based on the polls that I saw, Texas Tech ranked higher than Oklahoma State if you average them out. Still, so Texas Tech 3-6 in the conference, and still has a better record. I don't know. I mean, you figure it out. Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State, and Baylor is probably the biggest shock of all, that they are 2-8 and really don't have a pulse at this point. They really look like their season's over, which is too bad because you feel like they probably had a little more fight when they were playing you, and this Baylor, I don't see much fight from the Baylor team, and if they go on a epic losing streak and finish the season with 2 or 3 wins in conference, you're going to feel like you left one out there down in Waco if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, and that's another thing Coach Gajewski talked about this week is obviously their strength and schedule. We've been talking about that before the season started, about how it's a top 10 strength schedule and all that. But, Baylor's been struggling. That's going to hurt you a bit. Oregon's struggled this year. That's going to hurt you a bit in terms of they weren't as good as you thought they were going to be coming into the year. So they drop you down a bit on the strength of schedule. But, it's I know you feel like you left one out there, you want to be 8-1 right now. You want to be 9-0, it'd be great, but you still have the control of your own destiny. You still get sweeps this week, sweep against Texas Tech, and then hopefully somebody else does some work and at least beats OU once, so you can only have to beat them, maybe twice instead of sweeping them. But you still do have control of your own destiny.
This weekend, let's get to the good stuff. They swept Kansas at home. Look, Kansas is one of the teams that you expected to be down where Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State is, just like Iowa State, and we'll get to that coming up. But Kansas is a team that you expected to be down there. You took care of business. These are the series that I think Coach Gajewski was referencing to without actually saying it after the Texas series, about series that you have to sweep if you want to finish top 2 in this conference. I think that's what he was talking about. Talk about the pitching, because Claycley goes first on Friday. Shao goes. I didn't update this graphic from last week, so Claycley goes first on Friday. Shao goes second on Friday, and then Saturday ended up being Simonek and Sprang. So kind of a team effort there on Saturday. Talk about the pitching, what it looked like for you out there. Obviously, after the one run given up in the first inning on a home run by Claycley, it was like 14 innings or 13.2 innings straight of scoreless softball for Shao and Claycley in the circle. Yeah,
it definitely helped out Shao and Claycley's ERA. Claycley's down to, I think, sub-2 now, and Shao's right at 2.01. So their aces they're finally getting into their groove. They're looking their best, and I think having that doubleheader helped out Coach to make a decision, because he talked to us before. He's been struggling on who he wants to put out there. Obviously he said it'd be nice to just play Shao and Claycley all day, and that's what he used to do a couple years ago. He would just try out the same people every time, because but now he has to get people work. And so Sunday gives you the luxury. You already have the series win. We haven't seen Logan Simonek start in a while, so put her in there. She struggled a bit. Put across a couple of runs, so you put in Gabby Sprang, And she pitched a couple innings, didn't give up any hits, but she gave up a lot of walks. Was able to get some innings, so she ends up getting the win, even though they brought in Claycliffe again to close it out and close it and get the, I guess, I don't know what term you use for that. I guess secure the win, but
yeah, because not quite close enough to be a save, not within a save, not a save situation, but still you end up settling things down a little bit, I guess, is just the easiest way to say it. I don't think there's an actual term for it.
Yeah. So, but you had the luxury to bring her in there. I do think, though, that going forward, and I asked them this week, and ideal world, you'd want to use, Shao Friday, Claycliffe Saturday, and then Simic and Spring Sunday. Of course, it's not an ideal world. Things are going to change. But you have to try to find a third pitcher, and that's what he talked about, developing a third pitcher, because in the postseason, Shao doesn't have her best stuff, or if Claycliffe doesn't have her best stuff, or if one of them has their best stuff and then the other one doesn't, and then you have to bring the other one out, and they get tired, where are you going to go? So you have to start developing some more depth, and that's the luxury they have. They just haven't been able to work them so much. So I think this weekend was a good chance to work those pitchers, especially with Shao and Claycliffe on the first day throwing complete games.
Yeah, so there you go. Good series. Offensively, you like to see the bats come back alive again. 20 runs in the 3-game series, I think, is a good mark. I mean, if you hit 20 runs in a 3-game series, you're going to expect that your pitching staff can get it done and get you at least the series win. My goodness, if you score 20 runs, I would expect you to sweep the series. So anything else that kind of jumped out to you from the Kansas series, from either at the plate, or is anyone, I think, we've seen kind of a reemergence of Sydney Pennington. You did a story for the News Press, a really good story kind of about her little bit of a slump to start the year and how she kind of tweaked some things and kind of went back to her roots of hitting, and looks like it's paying some dividends. Yeah,
and that's the main part. Obviously, we talked about the top of the order with Bayless, Shao, and Montgomery. The middle of the order has been doing really well for them, though. Obviously, Taylor Lynch, who we have on, she's hitting the 6th hole. I think it's right. No, 5 hole. And the 4 hole is Pennington, and the 6th hole is Richburg. And Richburg and Pennington have been hitting really well. So Richburg, I think, went 2 for 4 on Sunday. I think it had an RBI double on the right field. But Pennington, going back to your question, she's just, I guess, like you mentioned, going to her roots. She's going back to just being a pure hitter. She knows that's her job. She knows that, she needs to go up there with the mindset of, I need to get on base, I need to bring in runs. And that's the problem that was on Friday, was the doubleheader. They had 21, I think, runners left on base over the 2 games, and that was something that Coach started off the post-game press conference with. That was the thing he was most mad about. Next game, you bring some more runs in. You stop abandoning them, because that's the problem they had last year. So I think that was good for them to start realizing that's we're getting on base, but we need to bring runners in. And I think Pennington's and the rest of that middle of the order has been doing a really good job with that.
Now, obviously, I think some people probably going to be a little concerned maybe at some point. Cheyenne Factor has cooled off a little bit. We saw her, just based on the box scores, first game of the Kansas series, she stays in that 4 hole, doesn't get a hit there. I believe she walked once. Yeah, she walked once. So, that's kind of where the RBI production you would assume to come from. She was tremendous during that stretch where she was untouchable. What do you think? What do you attribute that to? Because obviously, then they went Richburg in the 4 hole, and then, as you said, Pennington in the 4 hole. So, is that something that obviously you have to adapt and figure out who's playing well at the time? Do you think it's just something where she's working through something? Obviously, she's a freshman. I mean, she's still a young player.
I guess we can throw all the cliches here, but it's kind of a roller coaster season. No one's going to stay hot the entire year. Maybe they got the book on her. I don't know, maybe because she was doing so well early on. But like you said, she's a freshman, so they know how she hit. They know what approaches she had to play. So maybe some other teams get some tape on her, learn how to pitch to her, learn which pitches she would bite at. I guess that was maybe something she's got to adapt as well. They adapt to her, she's got to adapt back. It's just a constant back and forth between these players and pitchers. So the good thing is, though, the depth they have, they were able to have her go back in the dugout and bring out Maddie Lohman, who had played really well in the fall. And then she had some injury problems. And then Coach, I think we talked about this last week. Coach said that she was trying to learn on the fly. She's a good fielder. She just has to do better work at the plate. Well, she got good work at the plate this week. She hit a home run on a Saturday, and it was her first one as a Cowgirl. And Coach said that he was making a joke that she should be in the 4-hole. But obviously, I think he had her at the 7 or 8, and he said that's a good spot for her. I'm interested to see what they do this weekend, what the lineup's going to look like at Iowa State. But it gives you some confidence that, hey, even if Cheyenne's not batting as well, then you can have Maddie come in. And that talk goes back to competition as well. Now that Cheyenne's like, oh, crap, my spot got taken, I got to try to get back in there. And Maddie's like, well, I can't let this – I've been working hard to get to this spot. So competition, hopefully it just makes them produce even more.
Should be interesting to see. We kind of told people what to think, what to preview, what to listen for. Anything else for this Taylor Lynch interview that sticks out to you?
I just think it's really awesome the fact that all she does. I mean, on the field, obviously, with a torn ACL. I mean, I woke up this morning and my knee was killing me. I was like, oh, man, I think I'm making this day. I was like, well, Taylor Lynch, her knee kills her every day, and she goes and plays softball. So not only that, but what she does off the field and how she goes out and helps young girls and teaches lessons. And I think she's a double major and double minor and all this stuff. It's really inspiring. So give it a listen. She's a great player. She's a great leader for this team, and just overall, great person.
Yeah, she's terrific. Like I told Jordan after she left, kind of felt bad about myself because I am completely lazy compared to Taylor Lynch, who you'll hear on the Cowgirl Coverage podcast right after this. Welcome back into the Cowgirl Coverage podcast. Jordan King and Jordan Bishop with you as usual, and now joined by Taylor Lynch over here at the Cowgirl Softball Stadium. And Taylor, thanks for taking out a few minutes with us.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, as we move through the final go-around for you, what's it kind of been like going through non-con, getting into conference play, having some success, kind of, you have the midweek loss down in UT Arlington, come back with a sweep here at Kansas. Like, what's the final go-around been like? Has it been different in any way, or have you kind of tried to just do things the same?
I'd say it's definitely been close to the same. It's a little surreal for me. I try not to think about it being my senior year. I don't think about it often, like this is my first practice, however you put it. I don't ever think about that stuff. Part of me doesn't want to because I'm not ready to let go of it. But it's been good. It's been the same, and this group of girls is special, and I'll say that every single day. But they're definitely worth it. And through conference, we've kind of hit a few bumps in the road, but every time that happens, we seem to bounce back stronger, and I'll take that from a team any day.
So far, kind of the midway point sort of through conference play, how do you like the way this team's performing? How do you like, the way, where are some areas you can get better at, and where have you seen the growth just from conference play till now?
Right now it's going good. I think that the thing we need to grow at the most is making those in-game adjustments and doing it closer to the beginning of the game versus the end of the game. But just going back to those adjustments in general is being able to make it, and the team that adjusts first is the team who wins. So definitely being able to do that, which comes from more talk from the girls in the dugout about what we're seeing from the pitcher, batters, whatever it may be, just having that communication. But right now we're going strong, and I think that we still haven't played our best softball yet consistently, and that's what we're aiming for, is to be that consistent team, and I know a lot of people want to see that from us. So we are aiming for that consistency and just going out and winning. That's the bottom line.
Before you started Big 12 season, obviously you had a mindset change. We talked a bit about that. You wanted to be the hammer and the aggressor. Do you think since that talk that there's been a shift, I guess, in the mindset and mentality of this team?
Yeah, definitely. We always will say stuff about being a hammer and it being hammer time. It's a good way to put it, is to go out there and take it to teams, and don't let them take it to you. And we don't want to just go out there and win. We want to go out there and beat the heck out of someone, and beat them by 10, beat them by 20, whatever it is. We want to do that, and obviously we don't want them to score on us. But yeah, it's just going out there and having good at bats and winning every pitch, every inning, which leads to the game, and being that hammer. And we've had a lot of games where we have been a hammer big time. So that saying has definitely gone a long way and registered with our team. And so it's been good. It's been good watching everyone be a hammer.
Has it been hard for you this season to not be able to play out in the field? That you're just coming up there to bat and then to run the bases? Is that hard, not being able to play that other half of the game?
Yeah, it's different. It's what I signed up for when I decided to play. But it's just a different type of engagement. I have to make sure I'm engaged in the dugout very easily to slip away when you're not on the field. But I'm trying to constantly swing a bat, constantly be loud in the dugout, whatever it is, keeping me engaged, keeping our defense upbeat and ready. But it has been different. I wouldn't say hard, but definitely different, just finding my new role. And I love to hit. I've always loved it a little more than defense, but I'm glad I can still do that. But it's just been different.
Is there a bit more pressure on you, though, because you have to? Like, that's your one job. I mean, it's everybody's job to go up there and hit, but that's your one job is to go up there and get on base.
Right. It's kind of, I just kind of look at it the same thing. I try to not have a different outlook on any part of my game since my injury. I'm definitely still, I tell people all the time, like, I'm still the same person. I'm just swinging a bat. Like, that's it. I'm just not playing the field. Same girl, though. But it's just being engaged and taking quality at bats for my team because I can't give these bats back. I mean, I'm kind of, my time's winding down here, which is crazy to even think about, but I try to live every at bat like it's my last. So,
is there any other drawback or any other challenging part of being the designated player?
No, I definitely wouldn't say there's any difference there. It's just I have one thing to focus on now. It's kind of actually easier than having to go out there and live every pitch in the field. I just get to swing a bat, so I kind of have a cool job. I get a pinch runner sometimes, so I literally hit the ball to the outfield, run to first, and come back in the dugout. So it's been nice. I wouldn't say it's been any drawback or anything like that.
Is there a way that you can still contribute defensively, whether it be, you're not out there, but is there still a way that you can contribute? Like, may it be something you see based on someone that's playing a position that you've played in the past, something you see from hitters, because you have a unique perspective, right? Because you're like another coach there, where you're getting a unique perspective, you're watching it, and you have the experience playing defense. Is there a way that you can help girls, and do you do that?
I would say just being energetic in the dugout kind of helps our defense out. They thrive most when we're louder than the other team who's hitting, which isn't supposed to happen. But I would say just keeping myself engaged in the dugout. I do sit towards the end where the coaches are, listening to all that talk about, oh, her drop step should have been this way, whatever it may have been. So I try and just stay engaged down there that way. That way I can transfer that to the girls. I like to just let them play and do their thing and sit back and watch them because it's fun to watch them do what they do on defense. But if there is a point where I do see something that they need to know, I definitely tell them. But like I said, it just goes back to that energy, and that's what takes this team so far is our energy.
You and Maddie Sue have been here since Coach G's first season, and how overall have you seen yourself grow as a player and this program grow since you've been here?
Yeah, the program, first off, it's just gone uphill big time. Anybody who follows OSU athletics definitely knows that. And the history here is rich. We just had to dust it off, and I feel like Maddie Sue and I have had a ton of help along the way, but have definitely helped that happen here. And it's good. It's good to watch this program grow, and I can't, like, part of me always says, like, I'm so happy to be a part of the first 4 years of this program, but, like, dang, I want to be in, like, the next, like, what happens in 20 years, part of that team, because it's just going to keep going up, definitely. But just myself, it's just been a lot of life lessons, adversity, overcoming that, learning more about the game day in and day out. Yeah, I would say that's it, but it's been a heck of a ride.
Obviously, you have Oklahoma City on the mind for the end of the year, but overall, what's been your favorite moment so far through the first 3.5 years playing this game here at OSU?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say that I don't have one specific memory that really sticks out to me. Probably the most recent one was walking off against Kentucky in our first weekend. But, man, most of our good memories happens off the field. 6 a.m. runs, weights, whatever it is. that seems to be where the best stories come from, not so much on the field. But I don't know. There's a lot that this program has accomplished over these last 4 years. So it's really hard to narrow down the memories. I would say there was a play at Baylor when Coach G almost got hit by a ball. That was kind of funny. That was kind of one of my favorites. But yeah, I mean, there's too many to go back and point out a specific one, and I think that says a lot about where our program is and the type of girls we're bringing in. So yeah, I don't have one. I mean, there's just too many.
So when we had Maddie Sue on the podcast, she mentioned she was not recruited by Coach G. Were you recruited by him at all?
No, I was recruited by the same coach Maddie was.
So what we kind of asked her then, what was the vision from Coach Gajewski that made you decide you still wanted to play here, or was it something that this was the program that you just had circled, that this was always kind of the place you wanted to go?
This was definitely the place I've always wanted to go. I can speak for myself on that. I went to my first football game here on a visit, and it kind of sealed the deal for me. I wanted to go somewhere that had a rich football program. Part of that is being from Texas and football being important, and I've been a Dallas Cowboys fan since I was little. So football was actually a very important factor in where I went. Went to a game here, kind of sealed the deal. I knew it's where I wanted to be. This town is kind of like my hometown. But I would say that how he was on our first phone call, just how excited he was. You could tell in his voice that he was so excited, and he just wanted to get here and win and change everything and just make it better, and obviously he has done that. And so I would say I just remember getting off the phone with him like, dang, like I'm making a right decision by staying here. And I didn't really ever question that, but it always is scary when you find out you're getting a new coach that didn't recruit you. But personable guy, right off the bat, he was like, we tried to give him a handshake, and he was like, no, I give hugs. So just right away, he's a coach that truly doesn't change when he recruits you and when you get here. So that was nice, and I obviously didn't get to go through recruitment with him, but I got to go through a summer of not being here and talking to him, and I could kind of just tell then that he definitely was the same guy, because that his motivation to win and change this program and flip it around is everything that Maddie Sue and I wanted. Another reason we picked this place was because we wanted to be program changers. It would have been really easy to go somewhere that was just good all the time, but we wanted to stand out. We wanted to make a difference, and I felt like we both felt like we could do that here. And I would say we've done a decent job so far.
Outside of the football aspect, what else was it when you visited here? Do you remember anything else about the first impressions you got outside of just like the football game of when you first got to campus and kind of helped make up your decision?
Yeah, I think the campus is beautiful. That was good. The family atmosphere, it was kind of sealed the deal. I think that term is used a lot here when people are asked why did they choose Oklahoma State. But the family atmosphere is kind of unbeatable. Everyone in the community kind of loves OSU athletics and supports the heck out of every team that plays. And so I saw that, recognized that, and knew that that's where I wanted to be. So I would say how friendly everyone is and how close everyone is definitely one of the main reasons I chose Oklahoma State.
Talking about the closeness of it, and we talk, fans, the community, all of that, but the athletic department itself, I mean, the support system between the sports is terrific. You had Coach John Smith come out and throw out the first pitch the other day. You had some of the wrestlers out in left field making a ton of noise. Like, what's that like when I'm sure you guys support other, you guys are out at basketball games throwing out shirts earlier in the year. Like, what's it like being part of the athletic family here? Because again, it's not just football, it's not just basketball or softball. It's the athletic department, Cowboys, Cowgirls. I mean, it's one big family is what it seems like on the outside looking in. Is that how you view it, and what's it like?
Oh, definitely. I've made some of my best friends here throughout all the sports, and we love to go support each other. The coaches here, I feel like a lot of other places maybe, like, you can't just go talk to your football coach. You can't just go talk to your basketball coach. But every time I've seen Coach Smith or Coach Boyton or Coach Gundy, it's always, or Coach Holiday. Like, they're all talking to us like, hey, good game this weekend. Hey, whatever it is. And so it's good that they notice that. And I think that you don't find that at a lot of places. But like I said, I've made some of my best friends here that are away from the softball field and play other sports. But we love to support each other because at the end of the day, we all represent one school, different sport, same school. And we want to see that success keep going with this school because it definitely is on the rise. And it's just been good. And this, as close as the athletic department seems, is what it is, definitely.
I heard the other day one of your responsibilities as a senior is picking out the uniform.
Yeah.
What kind of goes into which combination you go with each game?
I try and switch it up to new combinations we haven't tried yet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be wearing 2 combinations this weekend that we haven't worn yet this year. But we have so many that it's kind of hard, and we have favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of just whatever my head throws together at the time, I feel like. Sometimes I'll ask the girls, like, hey, what do you want to wear? They'll throw out what jerseys they like. I try not to do, like, 2 jerseys in different weekends, like back-to-back weekends. We have that many combinations where I am allowed to do that, but I'm definitely the communicator on the team. So,
one thing I've wanted to ask you for a long time, you have an iconic walk-up song, the Taylor Gang. Was that something from high school? Like, would you just come up with that? It works so well for you, obviously.
Right. Actually, no, I did not have that in high school. Always thought about it, just never pulled the trigger. And in college, I was like, this would be so cool to walk up to. Like, I don't think anybody else has had it. But, yeah, I did it my first year, and then I started giving some lessons to younger kids, and they all told me, this song is so cool, this song is so cool. We love coming to watch you play. And I have a girl that says Taylor Gang on the back of her shirt with a number 6.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow, like, I've got to keep this going. Mm-hmm. And then not too long ago, the wrestlers came up to me and was like, your walkout song's our favorite song. Like, we get so excited listening to it in the outfield. And they're crazy anyway in the outfield. But I can see them kind of out of the corner of my eye, like, going crazy. But it's just kind of a unique song. I don't know. I like it. And it's old, and it's not a great song. But it does say my name in it. So I was like, yeah, let's go with this.
It's kind of a cool thing that I mentioned. Yeah, a girl's wearing that. And you don't come here to obviously – come here to just play softball, but along the way you become a role model for all these people come watch you. How does that make you feel? And is it just a really surreal feeling, I guess?
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember being that kid, so that's why I take it so seriously on my kids and helping out youth kids and stuff like that, because I was in their shoes. I've been a little girl in the stands of college games, and I've been the little girl at the College World Series just wanting to be there one day. And there's been players who have come up to me, and I remember that was the best thing that ever happened to me at that age. And it's important because that's why we play. Mm-hmm. And it's important to go back and remember that. And I get to see that every day. And that's definitely a part of my why, is to just that generation flipping it over. And softball's growing, and I want it to keep growing, and it definitely is. But, yeah, it's been good. And it's a feeling that can't be repeated for sure. It's a big part. It's a big part of it. So.
We ask a lot of everybody who comes on this podcast about mention the growth of the game, and obviously you'd like to be here in 20 years and see how big it is then. But how cool is it right now to be part of probably the best time for softball, because it just keeps growing, and every year more and more games are on TV. Just how neat is that to be part of this generation of softball and be a part of the growth of it?
It's awesome. It's good to watch a sport you love continue to grow each year. And just let alone here, it's grown. And that goes on the field with the girls, with the new coaching staff that we had 4 years ago. Our fans, that's what's really starting to come around is, yeah, we pack the stands a little more and more each year, but it doesn't matter who we're playing now. People are lined out in the outfield. People are filling up the stands. And just like I said, let alone here, we love playing at our home turf. And we always say we'll always protect this turf. And I know we're like 10-1 here or something, but it's hard to beat us at home. Yeah. And our fans, our growing fan base, and the love for softball is a big reason on why that's happening. So seeing the growth has been awesome. Can't wait to see what it's going to be in a few years. But it's been good. It's been good knowing that I played a small part in growing this sport and putting it on a bigger platform.
Does it help to see someone come in like Michelle Smith, who's had a huge impact on the game, to know that someone coming here, playing softball in small Stillwater, Oklahoma, can have such a big impact on a sport like that? Does that help drive this team forward to maybe do some more of that community outreach or outreach to the young kids or stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of us do give lessons and do stuff around the community for sure. But just knowing it doesn't matter that we're in Stillwater, Oklahoma, to do big things and impact people, whether they're older or younger. It doesn't matter. We can do that every day, day in and day out, really. And she definitely has set the standard here in what this program could be and stuff like that. So we look up to her big time and what she's doing now. Obviously a huge face of ESPN. Yeah. But it's good. It's good to have that type of background in the history here. And we definitely think about that all the time. It's why her name's out there. It's why her name's everywhere in this building. She deserves that. And we strive, like I said, she is the standard. And so we strive to continue to make this program that standard and be a Michelle Smith.
I know you don't want to be thinking about it because you still have a couple months left, but what's next, I guess, for Taylor Lynch in terms of after softball? What are you thinking of? And a lot of former players come back here to be GAs. Is that in your path, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, well, I might be a little different. I am planning to have surgery a week out. Mm-hmm. So whenever we finish, just a week after that, I'll go ahead and have my surgery. Now I know that I can live life without it. It's kind of hard to be like, okay, let's have it. But I will definitely be doing that. I'll stay here in the summer, have that surgery. Not sure what's going to happen after that. I've had a few job opportunities bounce back and forth in Stillwater that aren't softball related. Mm-hmm. Not sure I want to walk away from the game completely. So what's in store for Taylor Lynch, I don't know yet. But the first step is definitely having surgery. So, and that's my parents. My parents are going to make me have it. So.
Just what are you getting your degree in right now? Is it kind of just?
I have a double degree in management and marketing with a minor in entrepreneurship and a minor in sports management. So I came in with a lot of hours as a freshman, which allowed me to double major, double minor, and be done in 4. So I'm not using my 5th year. I don't need it. But I don't know. I'm in the middle of getting my real estate license right now in Texas. So it could be that. My brother's has a firm in Houston, so it may be moving to Houston. I'm definitely probably always going to give lessons. It's something I want to do. I've done it here since my sophomore year. Every day after practice, I'm at the cages for 3 more hours a day giving lessons. Wow. So, yeah, I don't know.
Away from softball, away from the field, like, who is Taylor Lynch? Like, what do you like to do away from softball? Like, softball's not an option. Got to get away from it once. What do you like to do?
It's a tough one. I like to hang out with my girls. I mean, I guess, are you taking away the teammates too in this question?
I mean, is there something away from softball that like you and teammates like to do? Like, is there a off-season teammate bonding thing that you really enjoy? Or?
We just kind of like to go have fun. Sydney Pennington, she's one of my best friends on the team. We love to shop. So definitely shopping is probably my number one hobby away from softball. I'm not definitely proud of it, but it is true. So anytime I'm not doing softball, I'm doing that a lot of the time. I do have a 3-year-old pup, so I play with him all the time, spoil him. I would do that a lot more if I wasn't playing softball. Trying to think, what else? I don't know. I'm definitely a person who's constantly doing stuff. Super outgoing. So if I wasn't doing softball, I would be doing something else. Yeah. Probably with an ACL if it wasn't. But, yeah, I don't know. Just kind of where the wind takes me. But definitely not sitting around doing nothing. That's not who I am.
Obviously, double major, double minor. What does this typical schedule look like during softball season? I mean, like, what's the day in the life? I mean, it's got to be difficult to try to balance all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that time management is something I achieved in high school, which allowed me to be elite at it here. But I took those college classes, so I knew what I was getting into before I got here. Most of my classes are offered online towards the end of my degree. So that's been easier. Like, I'm an all online this this spring. But, I mean, we always have weights or running in the morning. I always go to Claire after our trainer because rehab for me is kind of mandatory every day now. But I do that, and then we always have mandatory breakfast or dinner, practice, sometimes film. I usually go give 3-hour lessons, get home at 9, do homework. So it's been busy. Sometimes I have to go watch my lessons on the weekend, play. They spend their time watching me, and so I like to go watch them. They deserve that. So I'm constantly doing stuff. That's what a day in the life of Taylor Lynch. It is consistently going until it's time to go to bed and doing everything I can. There's not really a downtime for me. I don't like there to be downtime, really. It's good every now and then, but I always want to be achieving what I need to achieve, whether that's going to watch my kids play or taking my dog to the dog park or doing homework, whatever it is. Just always busy, but I have that time management skill, and so I'm a kid who's just always on time and likes to do stuff on time, never really procrastinate on anything in life. But yeah, just always busy. I'm a busy person, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And I've definitely been able to manage it without getting stressed. And so, yeah.
Well, we told you we'd only take 25 minutes, so we will end it here. And we thank you for taking out some time, and best of luck the rest of the way. And hopefully see you in Oklahoma City, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
So there you go. Jordan and Jordan will finish up the podcast right after this. Welcome back into the Cowgirl Coverage podcast. Good interview there, Jordan. And as he said, some really, really good stories from her. Fascinating person off the field, it sounds like, too. So I always like to give some insight on who these people are as people, not just student athletes. And she exemplifies student then athlete. And she's a terrific athlete. Does not take anything away from that. Double major, double minor. Academic all Big 12, obviously. She's been first team all region, I think. The list of accolades for her, and then what she's doing this year with her role kind of changing, is just tremendous. Going up to Iowa State, I feel like it's a broken record. And we talked about we played some sound from Coach Gajewski last week talking about the bad bounces and the bad luck. It always seems like somewhere in some sporting season, everything gets derailed up in Ames, Iowa. It just seems like it happens. I don't know if it actually statistically does happen. I don't know if this is factually correct, but it seems like it from, if you talk to any Oklahoma State, diehard Oklahoma State fans, they hate Ames, Iowa. And what do the Cowgirls have to do to make sure that that's not the case this week?
Just go out there and not overlook them. And that's the thing, is I don't think they will. Coach talked a lot about respecting them because they remind him of what he was trying to do his first year here at OSU, taking over a program that hasn't done much in recent years and trying to make them a good program. And I think they're, like I mentioned, their 40s in the RPI. So don't overlook them. Go in there and just play with a mindset of getting a sweep. Don't just go up there to win the series. Get a sweep, because you need sweeps right now. And pitching has to be important. You can't go up there and just lay an egg and give up 5 runs in a game. You have to go out there. I don't think they're going to have a problem with that. But you have to be able to be focused in every single game this weekend, because don't be looking ahead to Texas Tech next week. Don't be looking ahead to Tulsa. Take care of this right now up in Ames.
Yeah, and again, a team that, if you look at the Big 12 standings, this is a team that you have to be able to sweep. This is another one of those series that, if we're being honest with each other, this is one of them that Coach Gajewski was talking about. This is just like Kansas. To a certain extent, it looks like Baylor was one of those series too, but you might be able to overcome Baylor because you beat Texas. So this is a series that I think you have to be able to sweep if you want to finish top 2 in the conference. I don't think that's a stretch to say. And you got to get some momentum back going. If you can get, again, it would be easy for the RPI to justify keeping you lower if you kind of can't get, it seems like momentum helps you when you're talking about rising up rankings. Certainly does when you're talking about coaches polls or ESPN polls or whatever. Those always help, right? Every time you get momentum, I feel like it's harder to rise someone up. Like, let's say, Oklahoma State their softball team is They win 2, lose 1, then lose to Tulsa, then win 2 against Texas Tech, then lose them, and then sweeps Oklahoma, and then loses to UT Arlington. I'm going to have a tough time really putting them in that upper echelon. Even if they sweep a team like Oklahoma, I have a tough time putting them up with Oklahoma if they can't consistently do it. So I think that's where you got to show a little more consistency. And obviously, I'm being tough on them because of one blunder. Tulsa is not the loss that UT Arlington was. UT Arlington is going to be a blemish on the schedule. Tulsa, I don't think, is going to be, although they continue to drop in the RPI too, so you just hope that they can kind of hang on and make sure that that's a quality win next time they come around, and you hope you can get a win then. But yeah, I mean, going up to Ames, to me, it's more about getting momentum. This is a series I think you have to sweep.
Yeah, and consistency is key, and that's even a couple weeks ago we were talking to Michelle Smith, and she said this team, it can be up in the upper level if they have more consistency. Because you go to Texas, you win that series, then you drop on UT Arlington, and it just felt like, well, what happened? And I think that it hurt their psyche a bit, but then they rebounded from it great, and you can't let it happen again. I mean, that was your one mulligan, so now it's over. You can't, if you want to win a Big 12 title, you can't let that happen again. If you want to host NCAA regional, you can't let that happen again because your RPI is already, in jeopardy of, if you drop any more, it's going to be hard to climb back up for the end of the year. So going up there, and everybody talked about the weather. I think it's going to be pretty cold up there, but Coach didn't seem too concerned about it. So they've already played in cold weather when they were up here for their home tournament at the beginning of March, so it doesn't really bother them. So we'll see. Hopefully they can get the games in. That's the one concern I have. It's not the cold weather, it's that they can get them in, because it'd be better to get them in and get wins than to not play them, because you need any win you can get right now.
Yeah, you do not want to lose games against Iowa State. If you lose games against Oklahoma, well, man, that's tough. But you don't want to lose them against Iowa State. But, again, they're up in Ames, Iowa this weekend, and that's, again, sweep at minimum, in my opinion. Talk about soccer real quick. They get their final win of the spring season, and then I'll pull up their schedule here because they released the schedule for next season. So I think it's worth going over since we're bringing up soccer here. But real quickly, 1-0 win over Tulsa. I believe it was Grace Yoakum again who got the goal. She's been tremendous in the preseason, and her 4th goal of the spring. So she's been awesome. Again, another shutout. You're talking about going through spring so far, and the only goal you've given up, I believe, is to Rogers State. Yeah, you gave up a goal to Rogers State. So you go over to Arkansas Little Rock to finish it out coming up this weekend. I believe that is a Saturday game. It is. So they'll try to finish it off an undefeated spring, which I think would be a good thing. But coming up this fall, you're going to see Tulsa. That, I believe, will end up being an exhibition match. I'm not really sure. Or they'll add one. They might add an exhibition too. So Tulsa, you go to Beaumont, Texas for a couple games against UTSA and Lamar. Get that non-conference Oklahoma game match in. Then you got a 3-game a homestand, a little road trip out to Pennsylvania, another 3-game homestand, and then you start conference play. So I think this is a pretty interesting and a nice non-conference because you have some good games in there. And again, you're treating your fans by getting some good games in here. Oral Roberts will come. Central Arkansas will be here. St. Louis has a pretty good soccer program on both the men's. I'm not really sure how the women's is. I know their men's team is a really solid program up at St. Louis University. Heading out to Penn State, I think that's one that you kind of circle as far as recruiting. It's like these are the kinds of teams we're going to play, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of environments we're going to play in up at University Park. Omaha, Kennesaw State, SMU. So again, there are some quality teams. Some teams you saw this spring, by the way. You saw Tulsa here, and you saw SMU here. Yeah, you saw those two teams. And then normally you see Oral Roberts in the spring. So for some reason they just weren't on the schedule this year. I'm not really sure why, but I think it's a pretty solid non-conference.
Yeah, and I think we're going to try to get either a player on next week or Coach Carmichael. So that'd be great to talk to them about what their thoughts are on the spring, since it'll be over by then, since that last game is Saturday. But yeah, it's going through it. I was reading when the release, it was a pretty top I guess 20 schedule, top 25 schedule. So that's good for them, and obviously a lot of home games. And I know last year was technically the first year of Neil Patterson Stadium, but this will be. I drove by the other day, and it looked completely done. Looked like everything was. There's no more construction, so this will be the first, I guess, full year where everything's done, and so it feels like actual home.
Got the bells and whistles working now. So hopefully that's the case. Looking to conference season, this is interesting. This is a really interesting conference season. You got 5 road, 4 home. The breakdown is it's unbelievable. You go on the road for 2, home for 2, road for 3, home for 2. I can guarantee there's not a lot of schedules out there in the conference that look like that. So to go down it, obviously people are going to put 2 and 2 together. The road Bedlam means you're going to have Bedlam Conference at home. But talking about the rest of the Big 12 schedule, Texas Tech, TCU on the road, Kansas State at home, and then this is going to be a brutal stretch. You go to Texas. You go to West Virginia. We know how tough it is to play out there. Iowa State on the road, probably a winnable game there, and then Oklahoma, Baylor at home. That is a 5-game stretch, not road stretch, but a 5-game stretch of some of the best teams in the conference. Baylor's normally a really good team. You know Oklahoma's going to come to play. Texas is one of the best teams in the Big 12, if not the best team in the Big 12. And then West Virginia is tough to go play. So, I mean, you look at this 5 games to close out the conference season. You know, if you end up having injuries again or something like that, I think you could potentially have the danger of having the upcoming season finish like last year's. Hopefully they're able to stay a little healthy. Hopefully karma, what goes around, comes around, and they're able to stay healthier this year and are kind of rewarded in that way. But this is kind of a fun schedule to look at because I think just kind of intriguing to see how road trip, homestand, road trip, homestand. I mean, a lot of road trips that are followed by long stretches at home. So that's kind of how the non-conference is too. So interesting, but I think overall a really good schedule. I'm looking forward to seeing this team coming up this fall.
Yeah, and that one is to Austin, to Morgantown, to Ames. Is that in the span of a week? Like how many days in between they got?
That is in the span of 9 days. Yeah.
9 days. Okay, so but still though, that's a lot of long trips. That's pretty far. I mean, Austin's the closest one, and it's like 6 hours.
Well, and that's you got 5 days between Texas, West Virginia. That's not the one. You only have 2 days between West Virginia, Iowa State. So I mean that's where you're going to Morgantown, then to Ames, then back. I mean I think that's really gonna test the mettle of this team a little bit.
Yeah, and Ames, like you mentioned, every sport. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, you worry about every single time you see that name on a schedule. So.
Yeah, so again, if you're looking to get tickets for these are the teams you would see for Oklahoma State: Tulsa, Oral Roberts, Central Arkansas, SMU. Oh man, I'm dropping stuff all over the place here. Let me restart here for all the folks that don't want to be listening to me drop my phone all over the place. Tulsa, Oral Roberts, Central Arkansas, St. Louis, Omaha, Kennesaw State, SMU, Kansas, K-State, Oklahoma, and Baylor. That's a pretty good schedule if you're trying to draw some fans to the park, and hopefully it is, because I think I was not able to go to a game there last year. I've been to several games prior to that. It was a pretty good atmosphere then, and I'm looking forward to getting out there to Neil Patterson Stadium in the fall when everyone's kind of ramped up for it. It's not spring, because you don't want to take away from spring, but it's not fall. It's not conference play. So I'm looking forward to getting out there against some highly ranked teams, and hopefully we will get some good soccer this fall for the Cowgirls. But I think that's just about it, Jordan. Equestrian's got the week off. Obviously basketball well into the off season. Golf, we'll bring this up. Congratulations to Maja Stark from Sweden. She's a signee. She made the cut at the first ever Augusta National Women's Amateur. Congratulations to her. She probably didn't have the final day she wanted. She was 5 over, but she was one of only a handful of people to be under par on the first round. She was right there, top 5 first round. Ended up making the cut. Congratulations to her. And then I believe it's Isabella Fierro, from Mexico. Those are 2 signees coming in that are very highly touted. So, again, you talk about the freshmen. We've mentioned the freshmen on this team. They're going to be graduating 1 or 2 of their players, but overall a pretty young team. Looks like you got a couple studs on the way, too. Yeah,
and we talked about the youth, obviously, on this team. And I just really want to say it again. We know we talked about it last week, but this is just really cool. And I hope there are more events like this for young players, either in college or just coming out of high school, to go and play in these type of tournaments, because there's no other experiences like that. I mean, there's no guarantee you're gonna make the LPGA, so it's a cool experience to have, and it's once in a lifetime.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, Masters going on as we record this, but we don't talk that stuff. So the Augusta National Women's Amateur is clearly the more important tournament. Anyways, Jordan, pleasure. Number 17 in the books.
Yeah. I feel like I rambled a bit this episode, but we got it all. We got it in. It's the almost postseason time for tennis. Midway point of softball conference, so it's starting to get into the nitty gritty.
Welcome to my club. I'm normally the one that gets to ramble the entire episode, so you carried it this time. So apologies to the people. I think we kept them over an hour this time, but that's all right. I think we had some good conversation, and obviously the Taylor Lynch interview was a must-listen. Must not miss that one. So hopefully you gave it a listen. If you didn't, scroll to the bottom of this video into the comments or the description of the video and just hit it. I link everything in the video, so all you have to do is scroll down to whatever you want to listen to. You want to listen to our softball recap, you can click on that. It'll take you straight to it in the video. So it's pretty simple. Thanks for listening, everyone. For Jordan Bishop, I'm Jordan King, the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast on Triple Play Sports Podcast Network.